Let's imagine that we are perfectly flat. I mean absolutely flat. And that we live, appropriately enough, in a flatland. A land designed and named by Edwin Abbott, a Shakespearean scholar who lived in Victorian England. Everybody in flatland is, of course, exceptionally flat. We have squares, circles, triangles, and we all scurry about, and we can go into our houses and do our flat business. Now, we have width and length, but no height at all. Now, these little cutouts have some little height, but let's ignore that. Let's imagine that these are absolutely flat. That being the case, we know, us flatlanders, about left-right, and we know about forward-back, but we have never heard of up-down. Let us imagine that into flatland, hovering above it, comes a strange three-dimensional creature which, oddly enough, looks like an apple. And the three-dimensional creature sees an attractive, congenial-looking square, watches it enter its house, and decides in a gesture of interdimensional amity to say hello. "Hello," says the three-dimensional creature. "How are you? I am a visitor from the third dimension." Well, the poor square looks around his closed house, sees no one there, and what's more, has witnessed a greeting coming from his insides, a voice from within. He surely is getting a little worried about his sanity. The three-dimensional creature is unhappy about being considered a psychological aberration, and so he descends to actually enter flatland. Now, a three-dimensional creature exists in flatland only partially. Only a plane, a cross-section through him can be seen. So when the three-dimensional creature first reaches flatland, it's only the points of contact which can be seen, and we'll represent that by stamping the apple in this ink pad and placing that image in flatland. And as the apple were to descend through, slither by flatland, we would progressively see higher and higher slices, which we can represent by cutting the apple. So the square, as time goes on, sees a set of objects mysteriously appear from nowhere and inside a closed room and change their shape dramatically. His only conclusion could be that he's gone bonkers. Well, the apple might be a little annoyed at this conclusion, and so, not such a friendly gesture from dimension to dimension, makes a contact with the square from below and sends our flat creature fluttering and spinning above flatland. At first, the square has no idea what's happening. He's terribly confused. This is utterly outside his experience. But after a while, he comes to realize that he is seeing inside closed rooms in flatland. He is looking inside his fellow flat creatures. He is seeing flatland from a perspective no one has ever seen it before to his knowledge. Getting into another dimension provides as an incidental benefit a kind of X-ray vision. Now our flat creature slowly descends to the surface, and his friends rush up to see him. From their point of view, he has mysteriously appeared from nowhere. He hasn't walked from somewhere else. He's come from some other place. They say, "For heaven's sake, what's happened to you?" And the poor square has to say, "Well, I was in some other mystic dimension called up." And they will pat him on his side and comfort him, or else they'll ask, "Well, show us, where is that third dimension? Point to it." And the poor square will be unable to comply. What may be more interesting is the other direction in dimensionality. What about the fourth dimension? Now, to approach that, let's consider a cube. We can imagine a cube in the following way. You take a line segment and move it at right angles to itself in equal length. That makes a square. Move that square in equal length at right angles to itself, and you have a cube. Now, this cube, we understand, casts a shadow. And that shadow we recognize. It's, ordinarily drawn in third grade classrooms as two squares with their vertices connected. Now, if we look at the shadow of a three-dimensional object in 2 dimensions, we see that, in this case, not all the lines appear equal. Not all the angles are right angles. The three-dimensional object has not been perfectly represented in its projection in 2 dimensions, but that's part of the cost of losing a dimension in the projection. Now, let's take this three-dimensional cube and project it, carry it through a 4th physical dimension. Not that way, not that way, not that way, but at right angles to those 3 directions. I can't show you what direction that is, but imagine that there is a 4th physical dimension. In that case, we would generate a 4-dimensional hypercube, which is also called a tesseract. I cannot show you a tesseract because I and you are trapped in 3 dimensions. But what I can show you is the shadow in 3 dimensions of a 4-dimensional hypercube or tesseract. This is it. And you can see it's 2 nested cubes, all the vertices connected by lines. And now the real tesseract in 4 dimensions would have all the lines of equal length and all the angles right angles. That's not what we see here, but that's the penalty of projection. So you see, while we cannot imagine the world of 4 dimensions, we can certainly think about it perfectly well. Now, imagine a universe just like Flatland, true.
Yes, please. This guy, his name is Dr. Faust. Yes. Dr. Faust is like the top person on the planet when it comes to fulvic acid and humic acid and all those type of things and a lot of the monoatomic elements. And I was studying with him for a while, and it was interesting because he was like in what was he in Hawaii, and he asked me. Now I hadn't met him at this point, and I told him, I said, I'd like to use fulvic acid in my herbal products. He says, huh? Why would you do that? I said, well, fulvic acid, it creates like a freight train of information. It's like putting information on a supersonic jet and jams it into the cells. It carries information. Whatever information is in the fulvic acid, which is a liquid version of humic acid, it drives it. So I said, I'd like to put that in my herbs. He says, well, I don't know if anybody's ever done that. I said, well, I'd like to do it. I said, but I don't know how much fulvic acid to put in each of my products. He says, check this out. He says, okay, I want you to sit carefully and just breathe. And he says, are you near your products? I said, yes. He said, just breathe for a minute. And he says, there's a computer to your right? And I'm like, I'm on the telephone, okay? Old school telephone. I said, yes. And he said, there's a window to your left and the sun is out, right? I'm like, yes, how are you seeing this? He said, I'm triangulating you. I said, what do you mean? He said, I'm remote viewing you. He said, the only thing is I can't view your head. I said, why? He said, because you've got locks. He says, do you know remote viewers cannot view a person's natural hair? If your hair is like locks or it's even in natural braids, if you're wearing an afro, we can't read it because that scrambles the light and protects you. So he says, I lived with the Rastas. This man is deep. He said, I lived with the Rastas for many years, and the Maroons. There's the Maroons. That's even deeper than the Rastas. Yeah. And he says, we learned about all of these different things that they did. Yes. And these rhythms that they played. And these sounds and these things that they did. And the locks had more to do with, so you couldn't be found. You couldn't be located. This is amazing. Because of the spiral of the hair. Because the spiral of the hair, when you're in the natural spiral of the hair, you're picking up information that's in the galaxy because the information in the galaxy, it travels in spirals. It doesn't travel in straight lines. It travels in curves and ellipses. It's spirals. It's a spiral universe. So by you having your hair in a natural spiral, you can't be located. I'm like, what? He said, yeah, that's why they didn't want. He said there was the Dred Scott decision. He starts breaking down all that stuff where they didn't want folks wearing their natural hair. Put on some fake hair. Put on straighten that hair. Poison that hair. Dye that hair. Because when you dye it, you kill it. Right? Do all these things to your hair because they can't find you. They don't know where you are if you've got your natural hair.
This is a new species of spider that was just discovered living underground in Brazil. It has evolved specifically to live underground in caves. It's lost its pigmentation, it's lost its eyes. It has these long spines that help it better sense things in the dark. But what's really cool about it is that it's the only member of its genus, and that genus name is Paleotoca. So let me explain why. And this is a picture of one of these spiders in its natural habitat, which is what is so cool about this spider. This spider is in the burrow of a now extinct giant ground sloth. If you look at figure D up here, you can actually see some of the claw marks along that burrow from the giant ground sloth as it was removing that sediment. I've talked about these giant animals a lot on here because they're fascinating, and I talk about ancient animals, especially ancient animals that humans lived alongside. So imagine just 10,000 years ago, 12,000 years ago. These people were living in Brazil where this spider lives now. They weren't worried about finding a spider in one of these big holes in the ground. They have the potential of coming up on one of these things. Some of these giant ground sloths, not necessarily the ones that made this burrow, but just kind of expanding. Some of these giant ground sloths could be larger than modern elephants. You can see a couple of people back here. This is a giant ground sloth burrow. You can see a bunch of the claw marks alongside the wall. So again, just some perspective. These giant animals we lost just 10,000 years ago or so. But their burrows can be preserved, and South America is still full of these burrows waiting to be discovered. The genus name for this spider is just so cool. Paleotoca. Paleo means old, like paleontology, and then toca is believed to come from the word oca, which means home. So this spider's genus literally means old home. Just a repurposed home in a sense.
I've been ironing the wrong way. Oh my god! Look at this! This is how you iron your shirt. This one is good vibes. This guy's neighbor stole baby skunks and the whole squad pulled up on him. Oh, don't joke with skunks, my friend. These ones is they are relatives to the squirrel. And they are good vibes. They believe in family togetherness. They come for their one. You won't believe what this rescued bird transformed into. Wow, this one is a rescued bird. My god, it has not even a single feather. Oh man, which one is this? After some time it is growing feathers and it's changing from looking like a doll to almost a complete bird. Wow, this one is fascinating. Look at the transformation still going on. You can see the beak now has started growing. Wow, this one is interesting. Wow. And the animal grew to be a complete. Is this a parrot, English people? Which bird is this? It's a full grown now good vibes bird. You can't believe.
3 hearts here, a human heart, a cow heart, and as we're at the Irish racehorse experience, a horse heart. This is really cool. You can hear the beats per minute if you pick them up. So I'm just going to hold my mic so you can hear. But a human heart, you'll feel and hear beats per minute. And then a horse heart, when they're galloping, can get up to around 240 beats per minute. This will speed up as it gets going. And the size and weight of it as well, massive. Top speed. All of these little interactions in the Irish racehorse experience show you the physiology of a horse. It is very, very cool. There's lots to see and do, including some weighing scales, which I'm going to get on now.
This is why my dog can't come in the house, because every time I touch him, he pee. Watch this. Look. Look. Every time. I don't care what, no matter what he pee every time I touch him. What does that mean? Jack. Come here, boy. Come here, boy. Come here. Look, he done peed.
I need Hank Green immediately because what is this? All right, let me just show you. Hold on. I got this out of my car. All right, it's a lip gloss. I'll show you the brand. Tell me why. Why is that happening? Why is it floating? Why is it doing that? Oh wait, hold on. It needs more. It needs more. Hold on. Why is it doing that? Somebody tell me, please. Not somebody. I need Hank. Hank, tell me what's happening. I'm scared.
There is so much of our past hidden under what we think are just piles of rocks. But upon closer inspection, they are anything but. Signs of the many resets of our realm are not to just be found in the many layers of dried mud beneath us. As we look at some of these magnificent structures from ancient civilizations long past that are said to be carved from hammer and chisel, you can see a clear melting type destruction pattern on these buildings. Think Archimedes' mirror, or perhaps a plasma storm-like event that left its trace realm-wide. Look at the Black Pyramid of Egypt. It is clear one of those great pyramids of Egypt exposed to one of these events, leaving the top melted and blackened and deformed. I think there are many pyramids like this Black Pyramid still to be found all across the world. Many think these are the results of a man-made event, like an ancient nuclear war. Others, like myself, I believe this was a plasma storm, part of a repeating cycle like the mud flood. Whatever the cause, it definitely left its mark the world over. Question everything, friends. Until next time.
You guys must be wondering why this beautiful mother do this. Huh. Look at this. Wait. What's up? All these people are on their phones. Even the children are on their phones. Okay, well, this one is a bit funny. Oh my god. Why did the mother do this? Oh, one of them took their plates to the kitchen and came back to sit on their phones, but their mother decided to serve them on the table as they continue scrolling to their phones.
English mothers teach discipline different.
English mothers teach discipline different. See, from this side of the world, you can't joke when it's food time. My friend, you will be dealt with severely.
In 2016, it was January 2016. And the Z's made this statement that really got my attention, made me a little nervous, but got my attention. And they said between the years of 2017 to 2024 will be rapid changes on the planet, and it will peak in 2024. And then from 2025 onwards, you're in a new timeline, and essentially the new world can begin. But the intensity of this next 7 years is going to be greatly challenging at times. It is going to be shocking for many people, and it's going to shock a lot of people awake who previously weren't seeing some of either the corruption in the world or some of the inequity or some of the imbalance. They were perhaps just, in their own lives, maybe because they were just trying to survive, because the system has most people in survival. But they said that for many light workers, for many people and light workers to them just means that you have a mission of wanting to be here to uplift, to help. You're still human, so you can still have an awful day. You can still be going through the stuff that you're here to learn. You're not just a beam of light necessarily, but your mission, your focus, what you consistently return to in your work or in your behavior or in the way you show up for your family and your friends is, I want to be here to promote love, to promote harmony, to promote connection. I want to be able to help harmonize the world rather than cause more war, destruction, aggression. If that's your focus, they said, many of you are going to experience simultaneously somewhat golden times at times throughout this whole period, because your purpose will become clearer for you. You'll know why you're here. You're here for these times. It's not a mistake. The other piece I'll add, and then I'll, see if there's anything else you want me to elaborate on. I was struck by how much they've been talking about war disease the last 2-3 years. And they said in 2020 that we were in the middle of an energetic war, which I think anybody who lived through that year and the years following, whatever stance you took, whatever side you were on, whatever you were arguing for or against, it was like you saw the division energy at work. You saw the let's get people to attack each other. Let's get this group on this side to attack this group on this side. And there was some very insidious stuff going on. And so as they were talking about this energetic war that was playing out, at first I thought, okay, they keep mentioning war, and they're saying that there is a war going on that we're not even seeing or aware of. And then this year, after we've witnessed everything blowing up in the Middle East, and of course there are countless other wars going on around the world at the same time, they've been speaking a lot about the template of war that was seeded on the planet over 10,000 years ago, that we have been, in a way, trapped in, and that this is a period of time where over the next 100 or 200 years, there is an opportunity for it to break. But, and this is the but, and this is what I think is hard for most of us who wish the world was different, who wish it was a more harmonic place, who wish, all this stuff wasn't going on. They said the amplification of consciousness and light will also make those who are more aligned with the wound of darkness even louder, even more kicking back, even more attempting to control and hold on to old energy templates that have been on the planet for a very long time. And
oh, look at this good vibes guy. They have their pet who follows them everywhere they go. Wow, these are these good vibes. They probably follow them.
Something you'll hear a lot in sensationalized evangelical sermons about hell is that those thrown into hell will be weeping and screaming in pain, aka gnashing their teeth for all eternity. But what if I was to tell you that the whole gnashing of teeth thing does not mean at all what most modern Christians have been taught? So let's get it out of the way. Gnashing of teeth, it's not pleasant, and yeah, it is in the Bible. And whenever I do a video about the history of hell in the Christian faith, I get comments like this one: what about the gnashing of teeth? And it's completely fair, because many of us, myself included, were indoctrinated to believe that this verse is about endless pain and physical torment. And gnashing of teeth is indeed mentioned by Jesus when talking about being thrown into outer darkness in Matthew 8, Matthew 22, Matthew 24, and Matthew 30, and when he uses the metaphor of a fiery furnace to burn up weeds in Matthew 13. So what's up? Well, let's dig in. And once again, disclaimer, this post is not saying there's no judgment of the wicked or cleansing of evil or anything like that. The Bible states that there surely is, okay? But let's move on. Gnashing of teeth. Quick detective work reveals that all of Jesus's references to gnashing of teeth come to us via the book of Matthew. And as anyone who has even a smidgen of real Bible study under their belt knows, that when written, the book of Matthew was designed for a Jewish Christian audience living within the area these events initially occurred. The book of Matthew is the most Jewish of all the Gospels, and was designed to show those audiences that Jesus was indeed Israel's long-awaited Messiah. So with that in mind, maybe it's important to understand how Jews in Jesus' day would have understood the gnashing of teeth thing. It's probably pretty important. And we find evidence for how they understood this phrase in the Hebrew Bible. Gnashing of teeth is found in Job 16, Psalm 35, Psalm 37, Psalm 112, and Lamentations 2. And guess what? Gnashing of teeth does not mean screaming out in pain. In Job 16, Job believes that God is angry with him, that God is grinding, gnashing his teeth at Job, like as an attack. Psalm 35, like profane mockers at a feast, they gnash at me with their teeth. Psalm 37, the wicked plots against the righteous and gnashes his teeth at him. Psalm 112, the wicked man sees it and is angry, he gnashes his teeth. And Lamentations 2, all your enemies rail against you. They hiss, they gnash their teeth. In all uses of gnashing teeth, it is to express hatred, anger, rage against something. So in cultural context, Jews in Jesus' day would have understood those who were gnashing their teeth in outer darkness would be expressing intense hatred towards God, the people of God, and his kingdom. Don't believe me? Let's go to the New Testament. Acts 7, right before Stephen is martyred, what happens? The people who murder Stephen do what? They gnash their teeth at him in Acts 7:54. So if every time gnashing of teeth is mentioned in the Hebrew Bible and in Acts, it's referring to an intense hatred or an attack and not writhing in pain, it means Jews of Jesus' day would have definitively understood Jesus' metaphor to mean that those cast out of the kingdom are weeping in sorrow and futility and gnashing their teeth in fury and frustration at God and his kingdom. So gnashing of teeth is not about being in physical torment. It's about being consumed with hatred and rage, which still sucks and is somewhere you don't want to be. But it isn't quite the same as it has been presented in fear-based sermons from folks who don't understand the cultural context in which these words are being used. I don't know, maybe it's time we mature and grow up and peel back these layers of fear and re-examine these scriptures with fresh eyes. Because if we understand what gnashing of teeth represented to those who first heard Jesus' words, we can see it's less about the endless echo of agony and more about the profound tragedy of resistance against divine love and power. Gnashing of teeth isn't about fire and brimstone. It's about a soul's heartbreaking journey away from peace and salvation, a deliberate turning away from the divine warmth that seeks to embrace everyone. These insights can radically transform how we teach and live out the good news. It calls us to a higher form of discipleship and sonship, one that compels us to address the roots of spiritual rebellion in ourselves and others, and to extend compassion rather than condemnation. And that's the real power of understanding Scripture in its full context. It not only clarifies, but it also deepens our grasp of God's boundless grace and the profound sadness of those who choose to reject it. Let's move beyond the surface interpretations that breed fear and delve into the richer, more complex tapestry of God's love. By doing that, we might just find that our view of God's kingdom and those outside of it is more about redemption and less about retribution. The true gospel is not an invitation to fear, but a call to freedom, a freedom found in true understanding and the heartfelt invitation to turn to God's open arms, so we can become who God created us to be. God bless. See you soon.
This basically simple yet ingenious device proves the flat Earth. How so? Well, observe this mechanism once set into motion. At once, it resists any attempt to change its set orientation, maintaining its original spin axis, regardless of whether one changes the orientation of its outer frame. It is precisely this feature which allows it to be used in gyro compasses, serving to maintain directional bearings in ships, aircrafts, and other vehicles. Yet, on a spinning ball Earth, the orientation of the gyroscope would shift a whole 15 degrees per hour, simply to account for the rotation of the Earth beneath it. Still not convinced? Well, what about the obvious drift around its third axis in an airplane, as it courses around the 3D ball Earth? In reality, whenever any attempts are made at measuring any detectable shift in bearing, they fail, as any well-calibrated gyroscope will always faithfully point forever in the same direction. Just as in the example of Foucault's pendulum, said to demonstrate the Coriolis effect, these are just verbal anecdotes weakly attempting to enforce the globe model by being repeated so often matter-of-factly by people who have never observed any data to support their claims, whilst all observable experiments consistently demonstrate otherwise.
But I was watching this, and if you look at that dragon on the coffin in the yellow there, yellow and red, I thought those were the legs of the lion, but from this perspective, they look like heads of a dragon, right? Right there on the coffin. Those are 3 heads of a dragon, or maybe more than that even, just like in the House of the Dragon TV show. See that? 3 heads of a dragon and possibly more heads. It's that octopus type of image. And of course, you got the checkerboard floor. I mean, these rituals go back at least 5,000 years, and they're initiated into it, and they know all the secrets, and they're trained from their ancestors, the celestial beings.
And aided by angels and archangels and all the armies of the heavenly host, may thy portion this day be in peace, and thy dwelling in the heavenly Jerusalem.
But they actually have a giant at the Queen's funeral. Insanely tall man at Queen's funeral sparks jokes, must be the royal light bulb changer. This guy right here. This is the Queen's assistant private secretary, who measures 7 feet 2 inches tall, walked ahead of the Queen's coffin. It's an insanely tall mystery man from Northern Ireland, Mr. McGee. Could be a descendant of the Nephilim. Now they say here the Queen was 5 feet 3 inches tall. I think the Queen is shorter than that. The Queen looks like one of the shortest people I've ever seen. The Queen may have been an elf or some other type of entity. Shorter than Tom Cruise, even. Could be a tiny little Jewish guy. When it walked around, it was always kind of hunching over and trying to... it looks like it's acting to me when it walks around like that, hunching the head down, trying to look even shorter. So, I don't know. You got the tall guy, and then you got the short queen, and then you got the black and white checkerboard and the different heads of the dragon. So you can cut off one of the heads of the dragon, but there's many more heads of the dragon.
Wonderful source, my friends. Thank you very much for watching all this way. Lots of crazy and mysterious stuff. But all this, my friend, is for entertainment purposes, like we always said. About today's video, I hope you've learned something, enjoyed, or got something that was intriguing to your mind. Tell us in the comment section how the videos were to you. My friend, I really thank you for watching all this way. I understand we might have used a lot of energy through the video, and it's good for us to re-energize before we wrap up the video, so that you can have more strength when you are doing other things, you see? And let's re-strengthen from this book here. Book of Wisdom. Some food for the soul, my friends. Good vibes. This is what it says. I will remember the deeds of the Lord. Yes, I will remember your miracles of long ago. I will meditate on all your works and consider all your mighty deeds. Your ways, O God, are holy. What God is so great as our God? You are the God who performs miracles. You display your power among the peoples. With your mighty arm, you redeemed your people, the descendants of Jacob and Joseph. That is Psalm 77 from 11. Wonderful words, my friend. Our God is powerful and mighty, and He can do all things that are disturbing in our lives. You see? So, my friends, let's acknowledge Him and give thanks. Dear Lord, our Creator Father, full of love and mercies, thank you, dear Lord, for helping us to reach this minute. All glory and honor belong unto you. Thank you for your goodness and your kindness, O Lord. Bless us, Father. Intervene in our lives, Father, and fill our lives with joy and love, Father. Help us, Lord, to extend it even to all those that are around us, and always guide us to walk in your ways. In Jesus' mighty name, we do pray, trusting and believing. Amen. My friend, peace and love be with you. Till next time, I have been Y311H, and it's been a pleasure to be with you. Watch the other episodes, my friend, kindly, and help us in spreading love to the whole world. Till next time, bye bye. God bless you a lot. Good vibes.